Hello everyone, you're welcome to Lizama Stitches. My name is Amaka. In this tutorial, we are going to be learning how to make a transparent corset. We have a course on how to make corsets, and that course is very detailed. If you're interested, you can contact us with the number on the screen, or you can also join our WhatsApp group by clicking on the link in the description box below. So let's get started. Now I'm going to start by taking my vertical measurement. Now the bust point I'm working with is 11 inches. Shoulder to under bust point is 14 inches. Shoulder to waist point is 16 inches. The full length of the corset is 24 inches. Then I'm going to use ½ inch for my hemming allowance. So I'm going to extend the points. Now I'll connect the points with horizontal lines. So the next thing I'll do is to take the neck measurement. Now the neck width I'm working with is 3 inches. And the neck depth is 3 inches. And I'll connect the points. The shoulder measurement I'm working with is 14 inches. 14 divided by 2 gives you 7 inches. Plus ½ inch seam allowance gives you 7.5 inches. Now from this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant. And I'll connect it to the neckline. Now to impute my armhole depth, I'm going to be working with my armhole measurement. Now half of my armhole measurement is 8 inches. Another way to do this is by dividing your armhole measurement by 6 plus 1.5 inches. That's another way to do it, but I'm working with half of my armhole measurement, which is 8 inches. Now this measurement I have here, this 7.5 inches, which is my shoulder measurement, I'm bringing it down here, and I'll connect this point to this point, just like this. And I'll extend this point to this point, and this point to this point. Now this is going to serve as my chest point. Now let me label these lines. This is my chest point, my bust point, my under bust point, my waist point, the full length of the corset. So the next thing I'm going to do is to find the midpoint of this line. Now this is the midpoint of this line. Now from this midpoint, I'm going to go in by 3/4, and I'll mark 3/4. Now on my chest point, I'm going to mark 1/4 of my bust circumference. My bust circumference divided by 4 gives you 9.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 9.5 inches here. So I'll connect this point to this point and this point to this point, just like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is to impute my dart. And to do that, I'm going to be working with my nipple to nipple measurement. Now half of my nipple to nipple measurement is 4 inches. So I'm going to mark 4 inches here. And I'll mark 4 inches here on my bust point. I'm marking 4 inches. And I'll connect the points. Now I'm going to find the midpoint of the shoulder line. Now this is the midpoint of this line, and I'll connect this point to this point, just like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is to create a new neckline. So I'm creating a new neckline for my sweetheart neckline, and I'm working with 8 inches. Now my neckline is 8 inches, and I'll connect the points. So I'm going to input my darts. Now on this point, I'm going to mark 1 inch on both sides of this line. So I'll mark 1 inch here, I'll mark 1 inch here, and I'll mark 1 inch here. And on this line, on my underbust point, I'm going to mark 1 inch here, and I'll mark 1 inch here. On the hem of the, now on this point, I'm going to go up by 2 inches, and I'll mark. Now I'm going to connect the points. So now I'm going to connect this point to this point, and this point to this point. And I'll connect this point to this point. So now on this line, I'm going to mark 1 inch on both sides of this line. Now the same measurement I have here, I'm bringing it here. 1 inch here, and I'll mark 1 inch here. And I'll connect this point to this point, and this point to this point. Just like this. Now from this point, which is my bust point, I'm going to mark ½ inch on this point, and on my waist point I'm going to mark ½ inch. Now I want to mark, now this is for my sweetheart neckline. I want my sweetheart neckline to start from my bust point. Now but I later changed my mind. On the second thought, I just felt it might be too revealing, so instead of using my bust point, I'm going to be working with my chest point. So from my chest point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. So I'm going to connect it back to the bust point. Now this is optional. You can decide to use your bust point. You can also decide to work with your chest point, or you come down by 1 inch from your chest point. It all depends on how revealing you want your corset to be. So I came down by 1 inch from my chest point, and I'm connecting it back. Now to create my cup, I'm going to connect this point to this point. So now, when drafting your cup, you have to place your curved ruler in such a way that it will have enough space to accommodate your bust. Don't do this. If you do this, your cup will look like a V. It will look like a V, and it won't be nice. Do this. Let your cup be round. Let your cup have enough space to accommodate your bust. Let it be round. So do this. Do it this way. Now I'll connect this point to this point. So now I've created the first cup. Now the next thing I'm going to do on this point, I'm going to find the midpoint of this line. Now this is the midpoint of this line, and I'll connect this point to this point, just like this. Now make sure you create enough room to accommodate your bust. Place your curved ruler, let it be round. Let your cup be round. It shouldn't be like a V. Don't do this. If you do this, your cup is going to be like a V, and it won't be nice. So place your cup this way. Let your cup have enough room to accommodate your bust. So do this. Do it this way. So after that, I'm going to connect this point to this point. So now my cup is complete. I'm going to take my horizontal measurement. Now I'm going to take my bust measurement here on my chest point. Now my bust circumference divided by 4 gives you 9.5 inches. Plus this dart intake, which I'm going to cut off from here, I'm going to return it here. plus 1.5 inches seam allowance. Now on the underbust point, I'm going to take my underbust measurement on the underbust point. My underbust circumference is 30 inches. 30 divided by 4 gives you 7.5 inches. Plus this 2 inches that which I'm going to cut off, I'm returning it here. Plus 1.5 inches seam allowance. Now on my waist point, I'm going to take my waist measurement on my waist point. Now my actual waist measurement is 32 inches. But I'm going to remove 2 inches from my waist measurement because I want to snatch my waist. So what I'm working with is 30 inches. Now 30 divided by 4 gives you 7.5 inches. Now this is optional. You can decide to remove 2 inches from your waist. You can decide to remove 3 inches, 4 inches. It all depends on what you want. But when you're doing it for a client, make sure you ask the person what the person wants so that you know what to do. So my actual waist measurement is 32 inches. I'm going to minus 2 inches from that 32 inches and that gives you 30 inches. So what I'm working with is 30 inches. 30 divided by 4 gives you 7.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 7.5 inches here. Plus these 2 inches that I'm going to cut off, I'm returning it. Plus 1.5 inches seam allowance. Now on the hem of the corset, I'm going to be working with my hip measurement. Now my hip circumference is 42 inches. 42 divided by 4 gives you 10.5 inches. On the hemming allowance, I'm going to take the same measurement, 10.5 inches. Plus 1.5 inches seam allowance. And I'll connect the points. And I'm going to add the shoulder seam allowance. The shoulder seam allowance I'm working with is 1/2 inch. And I'll connect the points. So now from here, I'm going to go up by 2 inches because I want to curve my top. So I'm going up by 2 inches. So I'll mark 2 inches here. And I'll mark 2 inches here. And I'll connect the points. So that's just it with the front panel. So I'm going to cut it. So I'm done cutting. Now I'm going to label it. Now this is going to be 1 and this will be 2. And I'm going to label this U, which means up, and U, that is the upper part, and lower part. This is the center front, and this is the side front. This will be cut on fold. So I'm going to cut one of this and I'll cut 2 of this. I'll cut 2 of this and 2 of this. So for the yoke, I'm not going to be using it for this corset. Now while cutting, I'm going to add my seam allowance. I'm not using the yoke. So I'm going to add seam allowance all around my cup. I'll add seam allowance here, I'll add here, I'll add here, and I'll add here as well. I've added seam allowance on the side, so I'm not going to add again. I've drawn some lines already. Now this is my starting point, which is also going to serve as my shoulder line. This is my waist point, the full length of the corset, and this is the hemming allowance. Now from my shoulder to my waist point is 16 inches. Shoulder to the full length of the corset is 24 inches plus half-inch hemming allowance. I'm going to take my neck measurement. Now take note, there is no zipper allowance on my pattern paper because I'm going to be using eyelets. So I'm not working with zipper. I'm going to take my neck measurement. My back neck width is 3 inches and the back neck depth is 1 inch, and I'll connect the points. Now I'll take the shoulder measurement. Half of my shoulder measurement is 7 inches plus half-inch seam allowance gives you 7.5 inches. Now from this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant, and I'll connect it to the neckline. Now I'm going to impute my armhole depth. For me to do that, I'm working with half of my armhole measurement, which is 8 inches. And I'll connect the points. I'll extend this point to this point and this point to this point. So I'm going to find the midpoint of this line. Now this is the midpoint of this line. On my chest point, I'm going to take my bust measurement on my chest point. My bust circumference divided by 4 gives you 9.5 inches. And I'll connect this point to this point. Now I'm going to impute my dart. For me to do that, I'm going to be working with my nipple to nipple measurement. Half of my nipple to nipple measurement is 4 inches. So I'm going to mark 4 inches here. And I'll mark 4 inches here. And I'll connect the points. On my waist point, I'm going to mark ½ inch on both sides of this line. So I'll mark ½ inch here, and I'll mark ½ inch here. Now on the hem, I'm going to come up by 2 inches. On my chest point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and I'll connect the points. I'm going to take my horizontal measurement. My bust circumference divided by 4 gives you 9.5 inches plus 1.5 inches seam allowance. My waist circumference divided by 4 gives you 7.5 inches. Plus this dart, which I'm going to cut off from here, I'm returning it here. This 1 inch dart, I'm returning it here. Plus 1.5 inches seam allowance. Now on the hem, I'm going to take my hip measurement on the hem. My hip circumference divided by 4 gives you 10.5 inches. Plus, I'm going to mark the same thing on the hemming allowance. Plus 1.5 inches seam allowance. And I'll connect the points. Now from here, I'll go in by 1.5 inches. And from here, I'll go in by 2 0.5 inches. Now this is for my back opening, and I'll connect the points. Now from here, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and I'll connect this point to this point with my free hand, just like this. Now I'm going to add my shoulder seam allowance. I'm using 1/2 inch for my shoulder seam allowance. On this point, I'll go up by 2 inches. And I'll connect it to this point. I'll mark 2 inches here as well. And I'll connect it to this point. The same curve that I have on the front panel, I'm repeating it here so that the front and the back panel will be the same by the side. Now on this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. And I'll connect it to this point. I'm cutting off this part. This part is no longer useful to me. So I'm going to label this. This is my yoke. I will label this as 1 and 2. The yoke is no longer useful to me. I'm not using the yoke for this particular corset. Now this is the upper part and this is the lower part. Just label your corset in such a way that you will not mix it up. This is the center, this is the center back, and this is the side back. So now I'm going to cut 2 of this and 2 of this, but I'm removing this. I'm removing the yoke. So I have my fabric here. Now I've cut out my fabric. Now this is 2. The fabric I used for this is organdy fabric. I have 2 of this. I have 2 of this. I have 1 of this. Now this I have 2 of this, and this is on fold. And the fabric I have here is satin. Now this is going to serve as the, now this is the part that is going to carry the eyelet. It's going to be at the back, center back. Now these are my cups. I've added seam allowance all around it. And I've added seam allowance here, 1/2 inch seam allowance here, 1/2 inch seam allowance here, and I have 1/2 inch seam allowance here. This 1/2 inch seam allowance here. This part was cut on fold, and I have 2 here. Now this is my customized bra cup. I used this pattern paper to cut out my wording, which I'm going to use for my customized bra cup. I added seam allowance on just one side, which I'm going to use to join it together. Now if your sewing machine has zigzag stitches, you might not need to add seam allowance. But if your sewing machine doesn't have zigzag stitches, then you will need to add seam allowance to your wording, which you are going to use to join your bra cup together. So we are going to stop here for now because I don't want this video to be too long. Our next video is going to be the sewing part of this tutorial. Remember that registration for our online classes is ongoing. If you're interested, you can contact me with the number on the screen. If you found this tutorial helpful, please click on the like button. Share this video with your friends. Share this video in your sewing groups. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so. Feel free to ask questions. I'll be in the comment section to answer all your questions. We've come to the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.